So Elon's going to make an exciting new announcement on Thursday, and I'm sure everybody that's watching this is fascinated to see what that's going to be. So I'm going to make a stab at what I think it is. Spoiler alert, it's all around the robots, and why I think that is, and what I think the implications of that are. If we look at Tesla's Q2 report, a couple of pieces I've highlighted here in their very brief summary of everything that they do. So they are expecting 2024 volumes to be not what you would expect from the trajectory of 2023, and they're working on a new vehicle, and the revenues from the energy storage business will basically offset the increases that they won't get from the automotive business. And interestingly, they are now starting to think about how we're going to get profit from AI. We shall see. Now, looking at their numbers compared to the automotive sector, we can see that their revenue growth numbers are below average for the sector, but not hugely different. We can also see the operating margin has declined significantly, and that's inevitably down to the pricing policies that came in around that time. If we look at debt to EBITDA, which is fairly good up until June 23, suddenly they've taken a lot of debt on and works out at roughly 33 billion. It does mean that their numbers have to look proportionately better going forward if he's unable to announce robo-taxi for sale or FSD working for everybody. What differentiates Tesla from any other automotive manufacturer? Here's the thing that Elon's going to be looking at most carefully at the end of his announcement. Not impressive increase in value until about 2020, when they started shipping a reasonable volume of vehicles. Obviously, he's going to be hoping to move this upwards. There are rumours of a modular vehicle coming along, and there are also battery improvement areas and latest upgrade of the autopilot system. So these things are known, and various pundits are speculating on what is likely to be the next vehicle that's coming out, and this is what they're saying. So they're saying early 25 launch. This is what they think it looks like. So the question is, can another vehicle that appeals to a larger range of people because of its price point actually move the dial on increasing overall take-up of EVs, or is he going to grab market share from his competitors? And the second question is this going to provide him with enough collateral to be able to maintain the P ratio, which is significantly higher in the sector that he's predominantly operating in? So whether or not he's got a version of the new vehicle on Thursday, I think he's going to lean heavily into human robots. It's on the top of his ecosystem picture, maybe by chance, maybe not. He's apparently already using them in one of his battery facilities, and I would expect to hear more about that. My outside bet is he'll have a robot drive another manufacturer's electric vehicle to him. Now, I can literally hear most of you screaming at the screen to go, that's nonsense, there's not enough sensors in the robot, blah, blah, blah. And to which you're absolutely correct, but that doesn't mean he couldn't do it. It doesn't mean he couldn't put sensors on the vehicle as add-ons, and also it doesn't mean he couldn't say it. So why is he really going into robots? I think the answer to that question is basically, firstly, because he can now, or he's close to, and secondly, so's a lot of other people. And thirdly, the size of the prize is absolutely terrifyingly enormous, which I'll go on to talk about. So I think he's got a bunch of robots that are trained to do specific things, and we're going to see some sort of fusion of this with this, and possibly Elon dancing, and then he's going to put one of the dancers aside and they'll do their thing, or serving food. And this is where it gets super, super interesting. I can see skill packages being monetized, if that's possible within the way that the algorithms work, which I don't know, but I'm sure they would try and make it this way. That means that he can basically control the marketplace, potentially own the IP for anybody that trains their own robot to do something, but certainly own the marketplace where you can trade that capability, which is super interesting and super scary. So let's assume that Elon, or one of the others, has produced a robot capable of pretty well mimicking human movement and with cognitive abilities that you would associate with Chat GPT. Then the question you have to ask yourself is, does my role involve doing anything that is more complicated physically or cognitively If we look at the different sectors in the UK and then see how many people work in those sectors, effectively this might be considered the total target market. And if we drill down into what you might think of as the immediate market, where there are vacancies in those sectors, again, this would then point to roles in these sectors as more likely to be at risk. So the question is it going to happen? All of the technology unquestionably accelerating in terms of its cleverness and capabilities over the last 100 years, and certainly most recently, would suggest that a viable human replacement robot is entirely possible and not in that far distant future. So then the question you have to ask is how quickly is it going to roll out? And I think likely to roll out very quickly. And once there's a demand for these things, the market is so enormous that we're going to see them everywhere. So on the upside, massive increase in overall capacity for a fraction of what is currently being paid. And most importantly, it frees us from having to go to work. Now, there are clearly downsides to that. But unfortunately, like it or not like it, it is the path and the direction that we are heading towards, and therefore we can either ignore it and respond in a retrospective and ill-conceived way, or we can proactively think about how we're going to bring this in, because it's coming, and it might not be heralded by Elon on Thursday, but it will be by him or one of his peers in the not too distant future.